Wait, I have to like pull up the book. I just realized I didn't have that pulled up. Would not. Oh, why is it fucking so bad? Shockingly, Harsh is the first one here. Harsh, do you just wait by your computer for 7 o'clock to hit? Genuinely, I'm curious. Also, there's a lag and I don't understand why. There it goes. Hopefully it'll be fine. The guys came and fixed the internet throughout the building, and it's made it so much worse. So they're coming back tomorrow and they're gonna like fix it, because it's actually getting to the point that I'm gonna throw my laptop out the window. I didn't have internet for the entire day today. It was awful. We'll see. Hopefully it's fixed. No. Oh, don't worry, I saw it. I saw all the art. Yes, I saw all the art. It was beautiful, it was amazing. What can I say? Brings joy to my heart every time I see new art. Hello. Also, I just realized we're like 23% done volume 3. I feel like we're going a lot, even though we only read like 5 to 7 chapters a day. We're still like kind of going through volume 3 pretty fast. Like we're almost 25% done. I'm almost a third of the way done, or a quarter. Which will be really nice. Okay, I'm gonna give it 1 more minute and then I'm gonna start reading, because I want to get like a solid chunk of chapters in. I also read every single night, so I feel like that probably helps, even though I only... I would read more chapters, but I do the live when I read the chapters, and I don't think having a live for the amount of times it would take me to read 100 chapters. So we just do 5 a day. We'll be good. I'm gonna give it like 2 more minutes, then I'm gonna start reading. That's what I'm finding is like a common theme amongst people who are really into the book. They read it within like a month. Could not be me. I remember when I first was like, I'm gonna read Lord of Mysteries, and then I was like, I'm gonna read this in a week. No. I don't know what that girl was thinking, but she was not thinking with her head. Redo of Healer? I've never heard of it, but I'll give it a try. Is it a show or is it a book to read? Okay, I won't read it. I won't watch it. Haven't heard of it, but from the consensus of the group, I might be good to not. Honestly, to be honest, Bullseye, I don't know if I trust your recommendations. I really don't know if I trust your recommendations. We'll do a consensus at the end of stream, and I'll do a poll. And if enough people tell me to watch it, I'll watch it. You know what? Weirdly enough, I trust Harsh's opinion. Oh my god, no. I'm actually so good. I'm so good to not. Jesus. I think I'm just gonna stick with Naruto and then I'll be good. And I'll go from there. And we'll be happy with it. Okay. I'm gonna get this, and then I'm gonna go over here. And I'm gonna get ready, and then I'm gonna start reading, because we're at like a good part. And the further we go, the closer I get to the ending of book 4. I'm not excited for the ending of book 4, but I am excited to finally know what happens, in a way, you know? That'll be cool. I'm not even gonna fucking look it up. I'm not even gonna look it up. I don't know if I trust any of the recommendations you guys are pulling right now, to be totally honest. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. I'm gonna get this because I want to do out of the corner of my eye, I saw the word goon. You might, honestly. To be totally honest, after that first recommendation, I don't even want to imagine the animes you guys are about to recommend. Okay. I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna start reading because we are at a really fun part. Okay, we're at chapter, let me change the chapter really quick because we're at chapter 536, Local Faith. Link click is good. That one's good. So, I'll believe that. Okay. Enough with your guys' awful anime recommendations. We're gonna get into the book. Thank you. We're gonna get into the book. We're on chapter 536, Local Faith. Starting off after what just happened in the last chapter. I know I read it yesterday. Oh, we literally stopped right in the middle of him talking to his captain, so we'll be good. Okay, chapter 536, Local Faith. What Admiral of Blood? Donitz almost raised his right hand to his ear. The first reaction was that he had misheard. However, Gammon Sparrow's smile and hidden madness and the slight movement of his captain's eyebrows and abnormality of hers reminded him that what was said had really happened. This madman Gammon Sparrow really is daring. This is one of the 7 pirate admirals. They aren't people that the character like Steel Mavetti can be compared with. Donnett's pupil shrank, his heart on the brink of roaring. Putting aside the fact that Admiral Blood's Saint Year's own might Just the pirates underneath him are intimidating enough. His first mate, third mate, and the captains of each ship are all capable of independently leading a large pirate crew. There are still many of the crews which Steele Mavetti had brought to Bayham with him in the Blood Pirate crew. When Vice Admiral Hurricane Kalangos died suddenly, like a wild dog in Backland, it was mainly because he wasn't with his pirate crew. However, Admiral of Blood Sr. is different. He seldom leaves his flagship and rarely leaves the company of his men. Even if the focus is placed back on Senior's strength, it would still be extremely terrifying. His mysterious bazaar and one of the few powerhouses at sea who is second only to the Four Kings. Even Captain might not dare to claim to be superior. A madman's guts really does exceed my imagination. No, he doesn't know the meaning of fear at all. The replacement of a pirate admiral will definitely be a great shock to the five seas. One thought after another flashed through Donnett's mind, but in the end he strangely calmed down. It was because he recalled that Garamond Sparrow was a powerhouse at the level of the 7 admirals, and there might be a hidden, terrifying organization backing him. Edwina said after a few seconds of silence, "Do you know of the Rose School of Thought? Not only do I know them, I've also killed their people and taken their mystical items." Wait a minute, why do I have to describe myself as a bad guy? Because he is a bad guy. Klein converged his smile and said in an unperturbed manner, "I've hunted their members." Edwina fell silent again. Next to her, Donitz once again had various thoughts. What are you talking about? With the Rose School of Thought, where am I? Whose dream is this? After a short moment of silence, Edwina said, "After the huge battle with Vice Admiral Dunn's pirate crew, Senior's captain vanished. At present, no one knows where they are. One will have to wait patiently. This is an arrangement." Klein once again revealed a smile. "I do not lack patience. How can I contact you?" Edwina turned her head to look at Donitz. "He knows how. Me? Soulful ritual? Wait a minute. Captain, you mean I have to follow this madman, Garamond Sparrow, during the period of time? No. Who knows when this fellow will go crazy?" With a start, Donitz quickly opened his mouth and said, "Captain, I've already left the Golden Dream for too long. I've missed too many lessons. I can't wait to return." He turned his hardest to show his sincerity in his eyes, filling them with the desire for knowledge. "I believe we can switch to someone else. The iron skin and barrel." Before he finished his sentence, Edwina suddenly raised her right hand and pressed it against her ear. She looked slightly as she said with a sigh to the side, as said without expression, "What did you say? I couldn't hear it." "Roselle's dream spell is reaching its limits." The pirate admiral's skirt fluttered against as she took a step back before her figure quickly turned faint, reducing into points of fragmented light. The rest of Donnett's words were left stuck in his throat. He stretched out his right hand in an attempt to grasp something, but he ended up weakly drooping down. Roselle's dream spell. The Emperor's presence in the field of mysticism is also quite formidable. I want to learn more. The full name of Vice Admiral Iceberg is Edwina Edwards. Edwards. Isn't that the surname of one of the Emperor's 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? A descendant? However, from the tone of Vice Admiral Iceberg, she isn't familiar with the eldest daughter of the Emperor, Bernadette. They might not even know each other. Klein looked at Donitz, whose expression had completely collapsed, and let out a soft laugh. "Perhaps one day I'll call you Mr. 10,000 pounds. Donitz straightened his back in fright as he saw Garamond Sparrow's figure disappear from his dreams. "If I were only a sequence 7 and had a bounty of 7 or 8,000 pounds, then I would be targeted everywhere I go." Donitz stood rooted in his dream, his head hurting the more he thought about it. In the evening, Donitz looked at Garamond Sparrow, who was dressed as a native. "Today we'll be visiting the local factions. We might be able to find some good things there. They have a great need for beyonder ingredients, food, and weapons." At this point, Donitz looked Garamond Sparrow up and down. It was rare for him to find something that he was better than him at. He said with a smile, "The area is filled with local people. They aren't even many people with mixed blood. If there's even the slightest sign of an abnormality in their clothing, you will be discovered. Your plantoons and brown jacket are fine, but you can't wear a shirt inside. A real native wears taraba shirts. They're similar to Cecil shirts, but they're either all blue or white. They don't wear caps, headscarves, or anything. Also, people like you, who look obviously Lebanese, will encounter very serious discrimination and hostility there. Just like the wolf that sneaks into the flock of sheep, you can't hide your existence at all." Before he could finish, he saw Garamond Sparrow tilt his head and look at him. His deep facial features quickly turned soft. His fair skin was instantly stained with the color of bronze. In a snap, he had become an undeniable native that didn't stand out in the way. After a few seconds of silence, Donnet laughed dryly, as if nothing had happened. Me too, I have to disguise myself. Your disguise? Klein took off his cap and sat down. What local faction? It actually trades beyond our ingredients, food, and weapons. Ahem, to put it simply, the Resistance. Donnet suddenly wasn't sure if Garamond Sparrow had any connection to the Lowen officials. Klein was startled for a sec. Resistance? Donnet smiled awkwardly and said, people who clamor for independence and for natives to administer their local affairs, their emancipament is deep in the woods or the sea. They cooperate with many pirates and adventurers. Of course, the ones backing them are mainly people from Faceac or Intis. Often, there will be priests from the god of combat and the eternal blazing sun secretly coming over. Bame isn't that calm after all. After leaving the kingdom and coming to the sea, Klein finally understood what it meant by an international situation. This wasn't something that could be compared to reading about wars in East Balam for the papers. There's gonna be no lag. Is there a lag? Because if there's a lag, we can fix it, but as far as I know, there's no lag. He nodded suddenly and didn't object to visiting the local factions. After leaving the Wind of Azure Inn, Klein followed Donnet, whose face was painted black. They went through... After leaving the Wind of Azure Inn, Klein followed Donnet, whose face was painted black. Is it Klein's face, or is Donnet's doing blackface? They went through the streets, heading all the way southeast, leaving the confines of the City of Generosity. They entered the zone filled with different architectural styles. The buildings here had raised floors, propped up by wooden pilings. Yeah, no, that's what I was like, okay. Wouldn't be my first choice, but, you know, I guess. There were 3 or 4 story buildings that had evolved from the Lowen-styled terrace houses. The roads that split from each other were narrow and dirty, with many stalls on either side. They sold all kinds of headgear, earrings, and accessories made of stone that were mostly bright red and multicolored. What a bunch of strange fellows. They especially liked bright colors, just like those venomous snakes in the forest, Donnet whispered. Donnet, we're having some interesting thoughts, especially in the outfit and paint on our face that we're wearing. It's questionable at best. As someone from Intis, you aren't much better either. You advocate the color of gold and advocate the sense of luxury and exquisiteness, just like a nouveau riche. Clan lampooned. They passed by a group of dark-skinned, skinny, and shriveled natives, entering the alleys which had clothes drying over their heads. The scene before their eyes suddenly opened up, revealing a small municipal square. On the... Yeah, I know. Don't get me wrong, I love Donnets. I'm just like, a little side-eye with some of the choices he's making right now. Thanks, Cammy. I'm happy you're here. I only know fake Quebec French, so it's good to have proper French. In the square, a group of locals were gathered around the central pond. Some were kneeling, some were prostrating, some were tabanak. Some were mumbling and some were singing softly. They had devout expressions, but they looked numbed. As soon as they realized that someone was approaching, they quickly got up and ran into the surrounding alleys in a flurry. All the windows on the second, third, and fourth floors of the surrounding house clanged shut, and the square grew quiet. By Klein's spiritual perception told him that there were many people behind the windows, around the alleys in the dark corners, watching these strangers who had suddenly arrived in their world. Donnet lowered his head and said in a surprised voice, "Don't worry, this is their way of protecting themselves." Oh? Klein's expression in his doubts. Donnet let out a chuckle. Before this place was completely colonized, the natives on the Roasted Archipelago always believed in sea god Calvatua. They believed that this deity, who appeared in the form of a gigantic sea serpent, would protect all of the islands here, preventing them from being devoured by earthquakes or tsunamis. Now that this belief has been outlawed, the Church of the Lord of Storms has been constantly fighting against the heretics. Even the Church of Evernight and the Church of Steam Machinery were unable to expand their influence here, and there are only a few cathedrals. But in fact, how can the faith that has been in place for centuries, if not millennium, be so easily eradicated? There are still plenty of believers in the sea god of Bam, Blue Mountain Island, and the Worsted Sea. Even if a bunch of people are captured every 1 or 2 months, a situation in which they suffer all kinds of extreme punishment, it's impossible to reverse the situation anytime soon. The Renaissance man pillar of support are the believers of the sea god. In my opinion, it will take at least another 100 years before the faith of the sea god will be completely eradicated. Of course, that's under the premise that there aren't any other disruptive elements. Sea god Calvitua. Its image is of a gigantic sea serpent. As Klein listened thoughtfully, he followed Donitz into a 4-story house on the right. He went to the top floor via a narrow staircase. Knock, knock, knock. Donitz knocked on the door to his left. "Who is it?" someone asked in a low voice. Donitz replied with a chuckle. "A friend who brings wine and barbecue." "Where from?" The person inside asked a strange question. Donald stepped back. "At sea." Creak, the door slowly opened and Klein saw a naked arm. The arm was tattooed with a blue, hideous sea serpent. Chapter 537. Sometimes I speak and the words just don't probably come out. And I know what I'm trying to say. And you know what I'm trying to say. But sometimes I just don't say what I'm trying to say and you need to hear. But you just gotta infer, read between the lines. It happens. Also, are we gonna end up meeting this magical sea god? I have a feeling we are. I have a feeling Klein's gonna become a white savior at some point in this book. Actually, no, I don't think he is. I think he's gonna end up joining forces with the, locals. Yeah, spelled right. Okay. Am I so scared? I actually think I have, but you know what? It just makes me better. We talked about this last live. Bullying makes me better. It's correct spelling. Yeah, see? It's worked. And I have you guys to thank for it. If you guys didn't bully me and make me feel stupid, then I would have never learned how to properly spell things. And the only reason I know how to properly spell things is because I get a shock of anxiety anytime I try and spell anything. Maybe one day I'll learn how to read too. Yep. No, I think we're gonna meet the sea god. I feel like we'll meet. I wonder if the sea god is like attached to a different god, maybe. That's what I'm wondering. Because I feel like nobody worships nothing in this. Like, with the amount of gods there are and like everything that there is, there's got to be something from there. You're welcome from Moana starts playing. Yeah. Okay, chapter 537. Excessive spiritual perception. Behind the door was a bare-chested man with a hideous blue sea serpent tattooed on his arm and short streaks of red paint painted on the side of his cheeks, chest, and abdomen. Each group formed out 3 streaks. Really exotic. However, aren't you afraid of being too conspicuous? What? Conspicuous. That's the word. Conspicuous. Because it was like the con and then it like went to the other line. Sometimes it just like goes from the line and goes to the other line and it's like, give me a minute. Aren't you afraid of being caught by the police while you're outside? You're part of the resistance that engages in secret operations. Klein was about to retract his gaze when he was almost... I have a question. Are Wiz and Easy also not good at reading? Or is it just me? I feel like Wiz wouldn't be. He doesn't strike me as someone who would struggle with much. But is at least like Easy not good at reading? Okay. Yeah. It's kind of what I thought. So it's not just me. Not as bad. So like in the tiers of like, so like Wiz is the best, and then like Easy's a little bit lower, and then I'm like down on the ground some here, like somewhere down there. Nice. Klein was about to retract his gaze, and when he almost... Here now. I'm pretty far underground. Yeah. That's not a huge jump. Retract his gaze when he almost forced to frown by the man's thick, messy eyebrows and cold-blooded eyes. He has killed many people. Klein made a rough judgment based on his spiritual intuition. No, I'm not becoming insecure with my reading. Okay, here's the thing. Pause really quick. Middle of this chapter can trigger my spiritual perception. Okay. Oh wait, did I not just read that? Oh no, judgment based on a spiritual intuition. Okay. I've known that I haven't been a good reader since I was in like grade 1. Yeah, Cammy just spoiling everything. I've known I haven't been a good reader since I was in grade 1. Like it's always just been jumbled up. I got taken out. When I was in grade 1, I was in English class. Or maybe I was in grade 2. I was in grade 2 and I was in English class. And then they took me and a group of kids. And this is how bad I was. Me and a group of like 8 other kids out of my English class and took us to another class. And then we had to take turns reading a book. And I, for the longest time, thought I was taking that class because I was so advanced at reading that I just, needed to go with these other kids and read this book because I was delusionally thinking that I could read. And then it took me a whole week and I finally looked at the other kids that I was reading with and I was like, oh my God, I'm in the like stupid people reading class. And then I went home and I bitched out my mom because my mom fucking knew. My mom knew. And I came home and I was like, Mom, did you know that I was in the dumb kids reading class? And she goes, yes, we wanted to make sure that you were okay and you could read, and the teacher just thought it would be better for you. I was like, you fucking bitch, why did you not tell me? I've been going a full week thinking that I was in the smart kid reading class because I was so advanced at reading, but I was actually in like the stupid kid reading class. And I had to spend the entire English, like, because in English you have the section where you have to like read the book. I had to spend grade 2, 3, and 4 in a different room reading the book because I couldn't read. And they didn't test me. Here's the fucked up part. They didn't test me for dyslexia until I was in high school. They just thought I was like dumb. They just thought I was illiterate for the longest time. I do have a very... No, because that was the crazy part. Yeah. And then in grade 6, they were finally like, okay, we're going to put her back in the normal kid class. And then every time it would come to me and it would become for the reading, everybody would just laugh. And it became a running joke because I could not read. And they didn't test me for anything. They were just like, she's actually just illiterate. She's just dumb. So, fun story. Let's get back to reading. So I know I'm a bad reader. I've just built a lot of character and tried to figure out how to do this. I'm heavily dyslexic, yeah. Like, yeah. If you ever see me write, I had a lot of E's onto things. I misspell a lot of words. But, we make it work. Knowledge, honestly speaking, due to his previous life's identity and knowledge, he initially held a lot of sympathy for the rebels under colonial rule, having no sense of belonging as a Loanese. Yeah. At least I'm Canadian and I can, like, do a map and, like, figure out where certain countries are. And I don't think that North America is the only country in, or America is the only country in North America. However, after hearing that the man and the followers of the sea god Calvert basically engaged in the same acts, he became even more wary and repulsed. Disgusting. One of the moderators, get rid of that comment right there. I ain't having being part of the USA. God, no. This wasn't to say that he discriminated against the local faith, but rather he understood that the traditional faith of the colonial islands was still in a primitive stage that believed in sacrifice. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Klein is one more death away from adding sacrifice to the... Klein is just like one cool trophy away from adding sacrifice into the Tarot Club rituals. I'm surprised he hasn't already. Like, technically he sacrifices some stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this book, Klein was sacrificing people. Actually, and you know whose idea is going to be? Audrey's. She's just going to do a full 180. They worship, in addition with experience of the Emperor and myself, the beyonder nature of this world is filled with madness and twistedness. A deity still in the primitive stage of sacrifice is basically unable to resist this trend. It's quite obvious that the kind of style they follow. Without a word, Klein followed Donitz into the room. I thought I just had a stroke. Edmonton. Like the city in Alberta? Edmonton, who's here? A mild voice sounded from the area near the windows. The tattooed man closed his door and said, "They've disguised themselves." At that moment, Klein had taken a good look at the situation in the room and gained a basic understanding of it. The living room wasn't very large. A cupboard, a table, and few chairs were enough to make it look cramped. To the right were the two doors leading to what appeared to be a bedroom. To the left was a kitchen separated by a cabinet. As for the washrooms... There was no doubt that there wasn't one. When Klein went upstairs, he discovered that there was a common washroom at the corner of each flight of stairs. The stretch of them not being washed for an extended period of time urged any passersby to walk faster. Directly in front of him was a window. Two bamboo poles hung out and were used to hang a lot of dry clothes. There were 4 or 5 men sitting or standing in the bedroom's doorway and the living room. All of them were dark-skinned natives with slightly curly hair. They wore dark blue Taraba shirts and more or less had red paint on their bare skin. As for the sea serpent tattoo, Klein couldn't tell if it was there or not because of the clothing. Some of them had revolvers in their waists, some carrying brownish red hunting rifles, some even carried gray steel backpacks and long, thick, high-pressure steam rifles. They formed a semicircle around Donitz and Klein, who had just entered the room. The person who spoke was a wheelchair-bound man in his 40s. He wore a jacket and had a blanket over his knees. He had a shaved head, a slightly green beard on both sides of the face. I always forget that they have, like, cool... Well, not cool, but, like, sometimes have different hair colors and stuff. Both sides of the face, and his dark brown eyes were calm and collected. He glanced at the visitor and slowly smiled. Blazing. Donitz was... I almost said dance again. How many countries in North America? There is... Because here's the thing. Do you count Central America as North America, or are we going to count Central America as its own thing? Because if you count Central America, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... Holy shit. 4, 5, 6, 7... I think it's like 16? But if you don't count Central America, then it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to say 6. Oh, I want to say 6, but I'm not sure. I think 6. Okay, then Central so Central America. So I think it's like 17. I don't know. Somebody fact check for me. How many countries are in North America? Central America is the part in between. Central America is like right after Mexico, and then right before you get down into South America. It's that little strip of land where you have like Honduras and I think Nicaragua's in there and like a couple other places. There are 23. Okay. I said 17. I was missing some. Well, Central America, we only have 7 continents. So if you actually look at it, Central America is technically part of North America because it's North America, South America, and then you have the other continents in the world. But if you want to take it off of like culturally, not geographically, then you would add Central America as its own thing. Yeah, please, sorry. Don's was stunned for a moment before forcing out a laugh. Kalat, you have one good eye. Dog shit. I'm so bad at disguising myself. He roared inwardly, unwilling to accept the fact. Kalat ignored blazing insincere praise and instead chuckled. I heard that you killed Steel and Blood Brambles. How else would they be dead? Donitz retorted without hesitation. Kalat narrowed his eyes, shifting his gaze to Klein, whose featureless face. He knew very well that Blazing Donitz would have a hard time killing Blood Brambles Hedry, much less Steel Mavetti. His success was rumored to be due to the help of a powerful adventurer, a seasoned bounty hunter. Is it the person beside him? When he looked into Klein's eyes, he didn't see any nervousness, worry, or vigilance. Those eyes were like a deep ocean. It could very well be. At the very least, he's stronger than Blazing. He signaled to Edmonton and the others with his eyes, secretly informing them. I wonder how he came up with all these names. Informing them to be on their guard. What are you doing here? Kalat didn't pursue the subject. Donitz subconsciously looked at Klein, and after seeing this nod of affirmation, he replied, here to see what good things you have to offer. Kalat pointed to the table and said, it's all placed there, including where many strange and different items laid out, including a whistle made of bone, a simple and crude bagpipe, an iron black leaf, and a rock stained with blood. Without waiting for Klein and Donitz to examine the items, Kalat clapped his hands and said, I have a mission. If you can complete it, you can freely choose an item from these at no additional cost. He laughed and added, by the definition of your foreigners, there aren't mystical objects, but they all have some supernatural power. But it will slowly weaken until it disappears. What mission? Klein asked calmly, having no intention of hiding the fact that Donitz was only a follower. He reached out the blanket that extended to his knees and took out a sack of white paper. Find out where they are. If you can catch them directly, you will get even more. He raised his arms and began to display lifelike portraits, including a lady with greenish-gray eyes dressed in a man's suit. Leticia Dolera. Klein recognized who the Renaissance was looking for at a glance. It was the female archaeologist and adventurer he had met last night and was boarded the same ship with this morning. She was suspected the member of the Moses Aztec Order or the Element Dawn. Donitz looked at it closely for a second and found the picture vaguely familiar. Suddenly he remembered where he had seen her before. Gammon Sparrow had shown it in his dreams. It can trigger my spiritual perception. Okay. He had just asked the captain about in the afternoon. Thank you, I did forget. In the evening, it's too resourceful at gathering information. Donitz released an urge to glance at the crazy adventurer beside him, afraid that Kalat and Edmonton would notice something amiss. He was very experienced in this area. The Renaissance who believed in the sea god are looking for Leticia. The faith of the god spreads through the Rorstad archipelago, including Simeme, there was a snake last night. The image of the sea god is that of a gigantic sea serpent. Klein superimposed the two matters together and quickly came to a preliminary conclusion. Archaeologist Leticia and company had obtained an important item involving the sea god and the forgotten temple in the ancient forest of Sameme Island. Hence, it resulted in last night's probing in the Renaissance search. Klein thought for a moment. He gave a perfunctory reply. I'll keep an eye out. I won't randomly get myself involved in matters relating to evil spirits. Of course, if it's necessary, then I will report it to the officials. He suddenly added a few words inwardly. Kalat nodded and said, take a look first and see if there's anything you want. Klein walked over and was just about to inquire as he made his selection when he suddenly sensed something and subconsciously looked towards the right side of item pile. There was a short sword man with thin bones. It was slightly longer than a forearm and had milky white body. There were a few dark red stripes on it. It can trigger my spiritual perception. I will change the music now. Okay. See, this is why I need you here. Okay, it'll trigger my spiritual perception. Klein stretched out his right hand in an attempt to pick up the sharp bone sword. It's just because the Wi-Fi. I'll fix it. The sharp sword that was placed right in front to carefully examine it. The moment his fingers touched the bone sword, cries of despair and pain suddenly echoed in his mind. A thick stretch of blood faintly appeared at the tip of his nose, and he seemed to have oh my god, I'm losing my spot. A thick stench of blood faintly appeared at the tip of his nose, and he seemed to have many distorted and rotten illusionary figures that were covered in mucus. Klein's forehead ached as though he had been pierced by a needle, and he subconsciously retracted his fingers. A little sinister. It's not a simple item. Klein, who had experienced things far more intense before, only showed a slight change in expression. He resisted the urge to activate his sphere of vision, afraid that it would see something he shouldn't. Noticing this, Khaled exchanged glances with Edmonton and said with a smile, this bone sword is capable of draining an enemy's blood. It's not bad. Do you want it? A little proactive, Klein frowned, relaxed his brows immediately, and then he said with a deep voice, no, there's nothing I want here. If Khaled hadn't asked, he was planning on buying the bone sword and researching it above the great fog. However, the fact that the man promoted it left him vigilant. Thus, he rashly abandoned his original plans. Colette crossed his hands and said, it's not expensive at all. Or would you like to look at something else? There's no need. Klein's pupils shrank suddenly as he turned and walked straight towards the door. Donitz hesitantly momentarily before hurrying after him. Edmonton, who had a sea serpent tattoo on his arm, watched silently. He seemed as if he would reach out and stop them at any moment, but in the end, he didn't do anything. There were two powerful adventurers who had killed Steel Mavetti at Blood Brambles Headley. Once out of the room, Klein stomped down the stairs without saying a word. Donitz ran after him, alarmed. Based on his take of the situation, he didn't inquire about the situation, only followed. The two quickly returned to the square of the crowd, which had gathered once again, and either kneel or prostrate scattered once more. Unlike before, there was a man who had still remained kneeling on the ground, motionless. Klein didn't even glance at him as he walked past without stopping. However, Donitz had taken a subconscious look, only to discover that the man's face was as dry as a weathered rock. The piece of flesh from the man's cheek fell to the ground. Fell to the ground. It was a piece of grayish skin with facial hair attached to it. He seems to have lost all the moisture in his body. Donitz was startled and didn't dare to look again, feeling that things had become strange and dangerous at some point. The two of them passed through the alleys, left the city, and boarded a rental carriage. The carriage driver was obviously a native, around 40 years old, and his laughter was very pleasing, but along the way he didn't say a word. It was so quiet that it made Donitz feel like his heart was beating like a drum. Klein pursed his lips and remained silent. The rental carriage quickly arrived at the dock area. In order to change his attire, Donitz got it to stop a distance from Acid Lemon Street. After getting off the carriage, Klein didn't pay the fare or stop. He immediately took a large stride and left, leaving Donnet stunned. He tossed 2 solly at the carriage driver and hurriedly chased after Gammon Sparrow. After a few steps, he looked back and saw the driver kneeling down with his face full of zeal and devoutness. He leaned over the ground and kissed the ground where Klein had stepped. Chapter 538. What's happening? That's what it says on the first thing, but I'm also thinking, like, what's happening? Really curious what we're doing here. What's happening? Donnet can believe that what he was seeing. It didn't shock him. It left him inexplicably terrified. It was like jumping into a bucket filled with ice when drunk, feeling a bone-piercing chill permeate his body from the soles of his feet to his head. What exactly happened? Why did things become so strange? Donnet took a deep breath, forcing himself to turn his head and chase after Gammon Sparrow. He found the crazy adventurer walking fast to the point he had to run with a small pace to keep up. Crossing the street and through the alley, Donnet suddenly saw a greenish shadow fall from a tree. The body was covered in scales as it twisted its slippery body and had a triangular head. It extended its scarlet forked tongue and was none other than the rather long venomous snake. Dog shit, why would there be snakes in this season? Donnet wasn't afraid of such a creature. He had roasted snake meat before, but it was the abnormality of the everything that left him agitated. Circling around the coiling snake, Donnet subconsciously looked left and right and found that both sides of the gutter of the corners of the ruined house, on either side rusty water pipes, and there was a pair of cold, vertical, and different colored eyes looking out. Donnet felt a chill run down his spine as his scalp had been pierced by a dense array of fine needles. He didn't dare to stay any longer, nor did he dare to leave. He increased his speed again and followed closely behind Gammon Sparrow. Entering the Wind of Azure Inn, he couldn't help but look up as he walked up to the wooden stairs, wanting to ask something. Suddenly his chest tightened and his breathing stagnated. At that moment, he was as if he had dived into the bottom of the sea, being pressed down by the heavy torrents of water from every direction. Whoosh! Faintly, Donnet heard the rush of a tidal and saw a faint, illusory light surrounding Gammon Sparrow, as if he were forming an endless, bottomless blue ocean. Within the ocean, there was an enormous azure blue figure holding everything up. It resembled a tower. Donnet's right foot stopped in the midair, unable to lower his foot. He wasn't unfamiliar with such a feeling. Back at the last pirate convention, the king of the 5 Seas Nast was even more imposing and terrifying than this. Almost all the pirates couldn't lift their heads, and even powerhouses like the admiral rank could only barely resist. Donnet knew very well that it was a result of Gammon Sparrow's own powers. What's he doing? If he had the level of a demigod, there was no need to include the mandated punchers during the hunt of Steel Mavetti. Ocean, tide, these 2 terms flashed through Donnett's mind, and he immediately thought of the matter of the Renaissance faith of the sea god Calvetua. Is he being taken over by the sea god right now? Could it be that Gammon Sparrow suffered at the sea god's curse via an unknown process when he touched the bone sword? The devotees' corpses that lost all the moisture is one of the conditions for the curse's activation. When the carriage driver prostrated and kissed the ground, was it because he sensed the sea god's aura? Man, Gammon Sparrow would probably die here today. Should I stay far away and avoid being impacted? At the very most, I'll come back and collect his corpse. How nice. It must still be possible to save him. I can use the soul file ritual to see Captain's help. She knows so many different kinds of old secret techniques. She would be able to resolve this problem. No, Lord, the soul file ritual has a requirement of being within 500 noctil miles. They're still en route, and it will take at least half a day to enter the range. As he desperately tried to think of something, Donnet stopped panicking and treading steadily into the luxurious suite with Gammon Sparrow. Klein still remained silently, as his dark brown eyes seemed to have a rich azure blue color that was nearing the color of black. He went straight to the bedroom and locked the door behind him. Donnet stood outside in a dilemma whether to flee or save the man. Inside the bedroom, Klein closed his eyes, waiting for the right opportunity. Suddenly he took 4 steps in a counterclockwise manner, chanting the statement with each step. In the wave of manic or high-pitched ravings rapidly rang in his ears as his spirit body shot up in the gray fog. Without a sound, he heard an indescribable shrill and painful howl. Klein appeared with an ancient palace at the very end of the long molten table. In the motionless gray fog below the illusory gigantic azure blue sea serpent appeared. It was located in an ancient dark ruin coiled around a half-collapsed pillar. Its hideous head was raised as its bloody mouth was wide open, revealing many curved fangs, and they were even longer than human forearms. On its milky white fangs there were layers upon layers of flowing blood and mucus. The sea serpent madly swung its tail, setting off terrifying waves and ridiculous ripples, causing the entire ruins to sway as if it was about to collapse. The scene rapidly shattered and dimmed. Regardless of how the unimaginably large sea serpent struggled, it was unable to turn the situation around. All it could do was let out long, painful screams in agony as it was reduced to the points of light before disappearing into the gray fog. Klein sat at the high back chair belonging to the fool as he quietly watched everything. He didn't make any superfluous actions for a long time. The gray fog silently spread out, and the scene seemed to return to an entirely unchanged state. After nearly a minute, Klein leaned back in his chair, sighed, and said the serpent's name, Sea God Calvetua. After coming to contact with the bone sword, he had already felt the abnormality, and during his conversation with Baldy Callet, he had keenly discovered that the tiny, weak, but extremely cold and sinister energy had invaded his body. At some point in time, he was slowly corrupting his soul. Klein made a prompt decision to turn around to leave. He then sensed that there was a continuing connection between the sinister power and his surroundings. It gradually strengthened and slowly connected to the unknown place. As soon as he diverted attention and resisted the corruption, he also controlled himself so as to not interact with the surroundings. Klein believed that as long as he responded to the abnormality on his journey back, it would only sever the intensify the corruption to the point of making it irreversible. At first, he wanted to find a nearby washroom and use the gray fog shielding as an isolation to remove the cold and sinister power, but after repeating consideration, he decided to leave the area. This was because there were many followers of the sea god around, and it was extremely likely for an accident to happen. During this process, Klein grasped another point, which was that it dispelled ahead of time the power projected by the sea god Calvetua would leave remnants in his flesh and blood. The consequences and effect would be unknown. He had no choice but to patiently wait for the opportunity to purify himself. Waiting for the cold and sinister energy, he thoughtfully permitted his spirit. Reflecting on everything that had happened, Klein lightly rapped the edge of the table and muttered to himself, "It's not that strong." The sea god's level was much lower than he had imagined. Oh my god! Dude, I love Klein so much. I love Klein so much. It's such a good... So I'm like Calvetua, that's how I'm gonna pronounce it until I'm corrected again, which you guys have no problem correcting me when I do something wrong. I don't even know what I said, to be totally honest. I was really locked in. I was. I really, really was. So I'm assuming at some point, yeah, Calvetua, that's what I was saying. So, I've got it. I'm assuming at some point we're probably gonna fight this sea god, or Klein's gonna... Cause I don't think... I don't know, cause the locals and like the natives seem to believe in the sea god, and I don't think with the way that the world here is set up, we would like paint the natives as a villain, because that's subjective propaganda I don't think we would add in this volume. But I do think at some point we're gonna fight whatever this is. I know it's resistance. I know. Thank you, Soba. I feel like we'd be coming. No, because I don't think Klein's gonna go into like a whole... I think we're gonna go into like somewhat of like a pirate arc. Because I feel like we would end up having... But I don't know if Klein's gonna go into like a full-blown thing about this. Like, I feel like he'll stick with, like, the bounty hunter adventurer vibe, not going into, like, the whole pirate politics side of thing. Maybe? But I also feel like... Yeah. We'll see what happens. His original plan was to use the method to finish off Amon. Oh! Amon's back. Yay! Avamon's avatar to deal with the sea god Kalvatua's projection, which was trying to take over his body. However, even before he had fused with the Black Emperor card and through his paper angel, Kalvatua ended up being dispelled by the gray fog directly, without leaving a single trace. On the basis, Klein concluded that the sea god Kalvatua's level was inferior to blasphemer Aemon, even though it was possible that the latter was more adept at intrusion, but it had only been an avatar. Was it thrown off by I said it and I'm proud of it. You know what? You knew what I was trying to say when I was asking, is it a sea adventure? Whatever. Don't bully me. I already told you the story about how I was in the special reading club, okay? Let me live my life. I've had a hard one. Even though it was possible for the later... I was kind of wondering... I've never watched One Piece, but I know a lot of people who have watched it and they really like it, so I was kind of wondering if it was kind of giving One Piece vibes, you know? I was not on the short bus. And also, there's nothing wrong with being on the short bus, you know? No offense to the people that were on the short bus. No, that's a lie. I was living in like a little area where the bus that would come and pick us up was, you know, just short. But that was just like circumstantial. I was on the short bus circumstantially. You know? It's just a slightly stronger demigod that can respond to the prayer of the believers with a certain range. Klein recalled and found that sea god Kalvatua was in an abnormal state. I haven't watched One Piece. I know I'm probably gonna clock a couple of the One Piece references. Short bus circumstantially, and I was mainly on the big bus. I just sometimes rode the short one. Dude, my mom might have lied about it. She might have lied about a couple things. Just to keep me going as a human being, you know? Short bus queen. Yeah. The foundation existed with the evil spirit rather than weak as though he collapsed at any moment. Moreover, it felt like it had fused with the spirit world in the ruins it was in, and it precisely as a result of this. Did you know the One Piece is the friends we made along the way? I haven't made any friends. I just come here and I get bullied and told that I, you know, was stupid. I do it to myself though, because I can't read or write and I was on the short bus. But, you know, it's not like you guys are doing much better. It was able to escape. That's the thing. I'll accept it. You know what? I'll accept the form of friendship that I'm getting, because I feel like it's the best I'm gonna get from chat forever, you know? Yeah. It was able to escape the encirclement of the Church of Storms. Klein leaned back in his chair and made a guess. What happened today is definitely not a coincidence. It stems from archaeologist Leticia's act of taking away something important. What was I trying to say there? Taking away some important artifact in the Forgotten Temple. It caused sea god Kalvatua condition to instantly deteriorate when it was already barely surviving. It made it impossible for it to hold on to its existence. As it got its believers to track the item. It also prepared to possess another body for its survival. The bone sword should have originated from its demigod body, and it hides a bit of the power it projects. As long as the target is suitable, it will infiltrate the body of the person who touches it, corrupting the soul and establishing the coordinates. It will then allow its spirit to be transferred over before it dissipates. But clearly it's not as adept in such matters. Yes, it's not the snake of Mercury. It's unable to create a closed loop on itself for reincarnation. It's also not like blasphemer Aemon, who can be a parasite inside a person's soul. It really possesses my body. It will directly cause my body to crumble and create a terrifying monster. According to this logical development, a dying Calvatua will likely engage in many crazy actions in the near future. Klein frowned. He didn't hesitate as he plummeted into the fog and returned to the real world. He unlocked the door, opened it, and entered the living room, startling the pacing Donitz. Oh, he was pacing! He was worried about his boy. He was probably more worried about himself, but... Donitz looked at him up and down a few times and asked, cautiously and warily, "Are you alright?" Oh my god, he does care about him. I was joking about it at first because I was like, nah, they're just kind of homeboys. Which I still think that they are homeboys. But he likes him, at least at a person. Klein maintained Gehrman Sparrow's persona and calmly replied, "It's settled." Settled? Donalds looked around before glancing at the bedroom, wondering if he had been hallucinating, that there wasn't any sea god curse. What did he do in the bedroom? He was lifted from his curse from the sea god in just a minute or two. Man, that guy has a huge secret. He does. Is that he... Donitz took 2 steps back and made his way. Besides the table covered in significant numbers and miscellaneous items, the wheelchair bound badly, Calliot wore a look of regret as he said to the tattooed man, "What a pity." Just a little more, he didn't pick it up. Just touch it. Wait, just a little more. He didn't pick it up, just touched it. Edmonton sighed as well. Calliot, I read one of the comments and I read what I just was written, and it just I was like, I need to read this over again. Calliot looked at the slightly bent bone sword and fervently said to himself, "When an outsider picks up that holy sword, God will walk the land again." Edmonton fell to his knees as well, his thought confessing to his deity. As time passed, both Calliot and Edmonton suddenly heard 2 miserable shrieks. They looked up and saw that 2 of their companions had collapsed. Their skin was like a withered rock, having lost all the moisture in their bodies. Calliot and Edmonton glanced at each other and felt a peculiar atmosphere. Both of them stood up at the same time, looked at the table. That milky white holy sword cracked loudly, splintering into countless small pieces. Oh no! Late night operations. We know what late night operations Donitz and Gehrman are doing. Yeah. Hey. I see gay, so I said gay. Call him as I see him. When an outsider picks up a holy sword, God will walk the land again. But what happens if the holy sword shatters? These 2 sentences echoed in the mind of Callant. And Edmonton, the matter was completely in the gaps of their knowledge. For a few seconds, they stared at the shattered holy sword, their expressions dull while they remained speechless. Hey, here's the thing, because I don't think Klein and Donitz would be a good match. I don't. But no, Klein would not be a good match. But Gehrman is. Klein and Leonard. That's my pick. You know? For a few seconds, they stared at the shattered holy sword, their expressions dull while they remained speechless. They couldn't believe the holy sword. Dude. Cammy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I won't make jokes about it anymore. You know? I'll just make true statements. I think that me and a Rhodes would get along really good. I think we would. He wouldn't even have to like force me into saying yes. Like I would like just answer the questions just for the love of the game. You know? For a few seconds they stared at the shattered holy sword, their expressions dull while they remained speechless. No, I won't make jokes about it anymore, you know? They could believe, I'll just, you know, I'll know the truth. I'll be able to infer. I couldn't believe that the holy sword, which had only been touched by an outsider in the evening, had suddenly shattered. What does this mean? What does this represent? The two of them didn't dare to think too deeply about it. They felt as if they'd returned to the very beginning. Back then, one of the secret bases of the Renaissance had been discovered by the Loan military. They were raided without any warning, and this resulted in their fathers being killed in that massacre. What did Cammy do? Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll see. Before receiving the grievous news, the feeling Callett and Edmonton felt that day mirrored that they felt today. They felt heavy, confused, expectant, and uneasy, all of them mixing to form an intense pressure. Return to the forest, find the high priestess, and figure out the reason. Perhaps this is the latest revelation from the god. Callett returned his wheelchair and said in a deep voice. Edmonton immediately stood up, saying to his remaining subordinates, "Continue searching for those blasphemers, but do not..." Everybody just calls everybody a blasphemer. Oh my god. "But do not stay here. Also instruct the believers outside not to hold any rituals or even pray." The unexpected change in the events made an extra vigilant. Bayham, in the corner of the street where the Cathedral of Waves was located, holding in a stack of white folded paper, Donitz turned his head to the side, feeling a mix of nervousness, worry, and puzzlement. "You meant that I'm to post them in different parts of the street and finally post it on the main door of the Cathedral of Waves." He was very afraid that the door of the cathedral would suddenly open and a group of fist-brandishing priests and bishops would rush out, immediately attacking them without even asking why he posted the poster. Klein maintained his coldness and said yes. His original plan was to hang the matter of the sea god Calvitua over to Mr. Hangman, so that he could warn the Church of Storms. However, considering that he still held the secret of Banksy Harbor, and he might even have reported this matter, it would be easy for him to arouse suspicion with another piece of important information in such a short period of time. As for the solution, it was still very simple. He could post a few posters on the mandated punishers' front door so that they could see it as soon as they came out. There was a small problem with Klein's plan. He couldn't tell which of the shops around the Cathedral of Waves was to cover identity in the mandated punishers. All they could do was make Donitz work a little harder and stick the posters everywhere in prompt spots, including but not limited to the front door of the Cathedral of Waves. I should have run away earlier. Why would I think that this fellow had saved my life? Perhaps I would have been converted into gold pounds if he were any other powerful adventurer. No, who would have imagined that this lunatic would so easily resolve the sea god's curse? Fleeting might put me in an even worse state. While laminating inwardly, Donitz unrolled the pile of white paper and casually glanced at the content. After Letitia Dolera and company entered and left the sun god's ruin in Siameme Island. They were pursued by the Renaissance resistance. Meanwhile, Callant and the resistance were trying to steal the bone sword and looking a little bent. Sea god Calvitua's body was on the brink of collapse with an extreme deranged mental state. Donitz froze for 2 seconds, and he subconsciously glanced at Garamond Sparrow. I can understand the first few statements, but why are there a mention of Sea God Calvatua being on the brink of collapse and in extremely deranged mental state? How does Garamond Sparrow know? Did he discover a problem when he was dealing with the Sea God's curse? And how did he deal with the Sea God's curse? An organization behind him was more powerful than I thought. Could it be that it's similar to the Aurora Order in which they serve a real deity? The more he thought about it, the more Donitz trembled in fear. No, I believe in platonic friendship relationships. I actually don't think that these two... I'm like on the fence. I really don't care less, and I think that they are just like better as like friends. But I think it's just fun. When you talk about my community, you talk about me. The first time he heard the Aurora Order had originally from a robbery at sea. Back then, it was the first time he saw his captain's serious expression. After... I feel like I really want to read Omniscient Reader's viewpoint. Fair point. I really want to read Omniscient Reader's viewpoint. I'm going to probably read it after this because I've heard nothing but good things about it. Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things. After that, he was taught some so-called general knowledge of the mysterious world. Klein responded to Donitz with an emotionless gaze. In the poster, he eliminated any subjective assumptions, and he only described the matter that could be conferred with certainty, so as to not interfere with the judgment. But that's also kind of this. Like, not that this isn't, like, great, but it does just... Or is it... Like, this obviously got better, like, later on as I read it. Among them, the content regarding the important item of Leticia and Company had taken away was excluded. Lost Temple was changed to the border and more inclusive Sea God ruins. The base was obviously abandoned, and Killout and the others were realizing something had happened to the Sea God, so it was left unmentioned. Suddenly, Donitz retracted his gaze, afraid to look any further. Captain said that the most secrets someone has, the more dangerous they are. It will definitely garner immense attention from the Church of Storms. Well, they discovered that it was the one who did it. Klein gave a terse answer. Yes. Donitz forced a smile and said, then would I be in grave danger? Klein used the clown ability to control his expression and calmly replied, you are already a pirate who has a bounty for your head. Do you think you can swagger down the main streets of Bayam now? Klein lampooned inwardly. That's true. No matter what, they will still capture me and claim my bounty. No, there's something wrong with that, Donitz blurted out, but my bounty will increase. Klein looked at him and he didn't say anything. All he did was grin a little. For a moment, Donitz thought he heard a rhetorical question. Isn't this a good thing? The good thing for the donkey to kick. With a dry chuckle, Donitz took a pile of posters and, taking advantage of the heavy winds in the late night, posted them in prominent spots on the street near the cathedral waves. It really looks like posting a small advertisement. Klein, who had one in his pocket, observed from afar and commented inwardly. He sighed and thought, it's good to have an assistant. At least I don't have to do something that tarnishes my reputation. If I were in Tingen or Backland, if something like that had happened, this the scene would be was too beautiful to imagine. Donald finally reached out the cathedral of waves, plastered the posters all around his front door, clenched his fists, and pounded on the door. After finishing all of this, he turned around and ran, as if there were 10 mandated punishers running after him from behind. Klein didn't dare to be negligent. He pulled out a paper figurine, stood it off, and burned it to ash before briskly walking to another street. After his recent encounter with the mandated punishers, he had a deep understanding of their style. He didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. It was only when they were far away from the cathedral of waves that they slowed down and regained their normal walking speed. Donnet had a good constitution. His face wasn't flustered, nor was he panting. He was slightly puzzled and asked, "Why did you just write to the police or throw it in the Governor General's office?" Before Klein could reply, he already realized why. That's right, the lower-ranking police and the staff of the Governor General's office are locals. They might very well pity the resistance, or might be I don't know what that word is. Believers of the sea god. As they were talking, they turned a corner and saw an extremely large red building in front of them. The inside was brightly lit, and the music could be heard from within the people. The carriages streamed in and out of the door. It didn't exclude any vibes that it was late at night. We actually ended up walking here. After a second of hesitation, a smile appeared on Donnett's face, a smile that all men understood. Red Theater. Klein, who was rich in theoretical knowledge, suddenly came to the realization. Donitz laughed mischievously. "This is one of the most famous places in the entire zone. You see, there are mysterious and flirtatious Balam girls, passionate Fainapotter girls, open and alluring Intis maidens, tall and gracious face-sack ladies, conservative and quiet Loan women, gentle and docile natives. The fellow knows a lot. He comes often." Klein swept a glance at Blazing and said nothing. For some reason, Donitz felt as though he had been seen through, and he immediately laughed awkwardly. "This is what pirates talk about when bragging. I've only been here a few times. I didn't have much money in the past. I could only find some average ones, and it's mainly in the area of the Fog Sea. Afterwards, I joined the Golden Dream. No wonder. Vice Admiral Iceberg's men receive quite good employment perks and often get to share in the treasure. It's still quite difficult to save up a few houses in Bayham compared to their typical pirate. This guy at least knows temperance and saves his money." Klein thought in enlightenment. Donitz didn't wish to continue on the topic as he changed the topic. There are a lot of street girls in Bayham, especially there. He pointed into the distance and said, "There was once a pirate who did an experiment. He randomly knocked on a family's door, produced some money, and requested to do it with the mistress once. In the end, 3 to 4 families out of 10 agreed." Jesus. It's as if someone like you who has the standard Loan look, almost no one will refuse it. They might secretly hide their daughters to prevent you from discovering her. Loan Navy would I don't know what's going on in the chat, but I'm not really liking what's going on in the book. Loan Navy would commit many murders and rapes here every year. They aren't any better than the pirates, but they would only be sent back to the country and pay some small fines. Klein listened quietly, and he suddenly thought back to the evening when the believers of the sea god were praying around the pool. He thought back to the feverish and numb faces, backland within the Dora family's villa. Emlyn White, who had taken the initiative to expose certain problems about himself, nervously followed Cosmere around underground, and he once again arrived in the Greystone Hall. Where the black iron coffin was kept. "Esteemed Lord Nibs, why have you summoned me?" Although Emlyn had rehearsed this scene in his mind dozens of times, he still couldn't completely remove the tension and apprehension in his heart. In the state, he suddenly understood a problem. From the viewpoint of the theater studies, the role he was acting as should hide in the worry it fears. "There's no need for any special concealment. I did well." Emlyn was suddenly much calmer. A deep, aged voice sounded from the coffins that was converted in symbols and magic labels to reward you. "For the ancestor you risked your life to pay to the fool. Along you did receive a response. You bore an enormous risk. This is an act that needs to be rewarded. Here is an acceptance draft for £7,000. Emlyn just got that? Here's an acceptance for 7,000 pounds, a reward for you. I didn't give it to you in a timely fashion due to the great smog of Backland, but it's never too late. At the same time, you must always be aware of yourself and not relax. If anything abnormal happens, immediately inform, cause me. He really gave me money. Emlyn almost forgot to close his mouth. No, yeah, same. Same, Emlyn. No, because here's the thing. I know vampires are probably, like, really loaded, but, like, he just got 7,000 pounds. Everybody in the tarot club's got money. They've all got money now. Which is kind of crazy. Goddamn. Sorry, sanguine. Sanguine, not vampire. If I'm gonna say it, put some respect on it, right? This possibly maybe is going to be last chapter. We're gonna see. I know I always say it's gonna be. Thank you for reminding me. Thanks. Oh, you guys know me so well. Thanks so much. This will probably be last chapter. I don't really know. I always say it's gonna be last chapter, and then I always read like one extra chapter because I'm like, maybe like one more. But I think we're gonna do last chapter here, and it'll be a good stop. Okay, chapter 4, not 400. No, chapter. Holy shit. Chapter 540. Suppression. What am I doing right now? Suppression. Even when Emlyn White left the Odora families under David. Look, we know it's true, but we don't have to, you know, remind everybody we don't have to remind chat every single stream, okay? We can let some things die. He couldn't believe that he could so easily be rewarded with 70,000 or 70, not 70,000, 7,000. Dude, I can't even do fucking numbers now. It's not just the letters, it's the numbers. 7,000 pounds. The acceptance draft was light and weightless in his hand, but he felt an absurdity of reality. The hangman's methods was really effective. Instead of exposing me and punishing me, Lord Nymphs gave me a generous reward. And this was done solely to feign ignorance while encouraging me to make attempts so that he can observe in secret. Are the thoughts of the sanguine that complicated as well? Emlyn sighed, his mind feeling adrift. Quickly he stopped his thoughts from wandering and turned his attention back to his 7,000 pounds. With this, I can buy the Baron's remains from the hangman and concoct it into a potion. I'll soon become a Baron. Sanguine Baron, Lord Emlyn White. Emlyn's eyes lit up as his footsteps turned significantly braced. I love him so much. Within the sanguine, if one wasn't bestowed the corresponding rituals by the elders, they would remain stuck at the same level they were at during birth. It was almost impossible to rely on time to advance unless one was extremely lucky, having an ancestor of the family that was nearing his end of life and their lifespan such that they had no choice but to bestow their powers to the descendant through ritual. Most of Emlyn's sanguine peers would remain stuck in the concept of adulthood. There might not be any chance of them obtaining an aristocratic title for decades. Emlyn's father and mother had lived for years, but they had yet to become barons up to this very day. They could even see my hope of becoming one. As Emlyn walked out the door, he could help but glance at the nearby Cosme or Adora, the elderly sanguine. The painkiller. Just added to the lore, you know? The elderly sanguine who has been active for the Roselle era, has been a baron up to this day, and am I about to reach the rank as well? One day I'll become a sanguine marquis like Lord Nibs, no, a duke, or even a prince. Only by doing so will I be able to shoulder the responsibility of being a sanguine messiah. Yes, the baron's remains is about £4,000. I'll have a lot of money left. I can even buy a few more dolls. Him and his dolls. He earned it. He earned it. And he gave some new clothes. Emlyn unconsciously straightened his back and began to walk more and more proudly. In the Berg household of the city of Silver, Derek lit some candles and prepared for a sacrificial ritual. The lighting frequently altered several times before he finally found an opportunity. He was very sure that the chief wasn't able to be kept an eye on him at this moment because he had left the city of Silver with his little boy Jack, who had recovered somewhat, and the group of explorers in search for the so-called route that led from the coast of the destroyed city. Sometimes I just look at the chat and I just have to shut off my brain for my own mental health. Sometimes I'm happy I don't know how to read. And sometimes I wish I didn't know how to read even more, so I wouldn't have to read that fuckery that is going on right there. It didn't take long for Derek to set up everything and say Mr. Fool's honorific name in reverent low voice. He very skillfully and methodically sacrificed the spirit eater stomach pouch needed by Miss Magician, and the beyond ingredients designed by Mr. Hangman to rule above the grey fog. There were many cracks in the City of Silver solid city walls, but they were filled to the brim with black hard soil. Strands of dense weed grew on them, swaying in the wind like human hair. All of a sudden, all of them stood up as if they wanted to capture something, but they turned limp without any strength left in them. Early morning, the Cathedral of Waves, Alger Wilson had come to collect the bounty, heard the important piece of news from the diocese bishop. I know, that's the thing that I'm wondering is, like, on Wiz and Easy streams, you guys are probably really nice. Is it because I'm a woman? Is that it? I feel like that's probably it. And that's on you. Leticia Dolera and the Moses Aztec Order had disguised herself as an archaeologist and entered the depths of the jungle on Saimim Island. It was unknown what she did that inflicted grievous injuries to the sea god Kalvetua, who had been hiding for years, pushing it to the verge of collapse. As a result, it was frantically searching for an opportunity to survive. Rumor has it that the evil spirit, which calls itself Sea God, had been discovered by two powerful cardinals of the military a long time ago. After it was defeated by them through the use of sealed artifacts, it could only barely escape and hide. The situation has persisted for more than 100 years without any intrinsic changes. Why would it suddenly collapse and unable to maintain the existence? Alger found slightly wondering what the difference was. The situation deliberately created by the Moses Aztec Order, but why didn't they do so in the past 100 years? To complement one of their other plans. Between speculation and doubt, Alger suddenly became aware of the important factors. The biggest and most fundamental differences between the last 100 years and now that the world had come to Bayham. Mr. Fool's Blessed had come to the Rorist Archipelago. Yo. What's my honorific name? You guys are gonna start praying to me now? Get on your knees. Dara, beater of dogs, the misspeller of words, queen of the short bus, the dyslexic one, the one who discriminates, and the bane of harsh. You know what? Put some respect on my name next time you want to do that. Okay? I better hear that if any of you guys want to ever address me. And also don't look directly at my eyes. Also, the camera just turned off and like glitched after I said it, so must be true. I'm actually God, just so you're aware. Is this that thing that happened whenever the world is, but that the world and the other blessed will appear when something is about to happen? What good does this bring Mr. Fool? Is it a plot solely to destroy the enemy's schemes, or does it help him lift his seal and release more power? Alger had back his doubts and decided to seize the opportunity and submit some intel from before. He clenched his right hand into a fist and pressed it against the left breast. He said with a look of hesitation, "Your Excellency, while pursuing the remnant forces of steel, I heard a piece of intel." "What is it?" Chogo had originally planned to send this bishop-ranked captain out into the sea to search for traces of resistance, but he forcibly interrupted by him. For a moment he felt irritated. Alger recalled and said someone mentioned Banksy Harbor in a conversation. They mentioned that the abnormality had happened there, but the descendants of the Medici family were well hidden and didn't end up being discovered. Banksy Harbor abnormality. Chogo took a step forward, impressed. What else did they say? Other than mentioning that there was a fallen bishop of the church, nothing else. Your Excellency, is the Medici family a dark family or of the fourth epoch? Alger asked deliberately. Chogo's expression sank. They're not something you should know. I'll report to His Eminence Cotman at once. Cotman was a Church of Storms cathedral. The Archbishop of the Roast Archipelago, a high-ranking deacon of the mandated punishers, and the true ruler of the beyonder world in the archipelago. Jan. Oh, dude. Bad leg, too. Jesus. Holy leg. Dude, I literally have like 6 pages. Yeah. Is it back? Dude, that was a crazy fucking lag. I literally have like 7 pages left. That was a bad lag. I'm so excited to get the internet fixed. Like, so excited to get the internet fixed. Oh my god. Yeah. I don't know how many of you are in Canada. Maybe nobody's in Canada. But I have TELUS internet in Canada, and it is dog shit. Cotman was the Church of Storms Cathedral and the Archbishop of the Roasted Sea, the high-ranking deacon of the mandated punishers, and the true ruler of beyonder world in the archipelago. Jan Cotman, Chogo thought for a moment before asking, who was the person who mentioned this? What does it look like? Alger was long prepared. I don't know them. I never showed up, and they never showed up again. I remember that this person mentioning Banksy Harbor and the Medici family was an ordinary-looking young man with a thin face and broad forehead, black eyes and black hair, and he wore a monocle. He seemed to notice that I was eavesdropping, but he didn't show any anger. Instead, he smiled at me. Alger has been describing blasphemer Aemon. He wanted the cardinals to believe that the exposure of the secret regarding the Medici family and Banksy Harbor was the result of the struggle between the King of Angels. The video I'll fix in a minute. This is really a suitable person to use as a reason. He wouldn't appear to defend himself, and even if he did, no one would believe it. And clearly, any divination regarding him would have zero results. If Beyonder means are used to confirm my information source, there will be strong signs of interference with Mr. Fool, and they won't be able to get an accurate answer. From the looks of it, this is equivalent to what Eamon did. Alger thought for a considerable relief. Chogo nodded slightly. Find these people and trace their whereabouts to the resistance. Yes, Your Excellency. Alger answered with a look of pity and struck his right fist on his left breast. Hey! Ain't nothing wrong with being Canadian. I won't have any Canadian slander in my chat. Slander me, but not my country. Dark clouds covering the sky as the rain fell down in torrents, creating white fog in the process. In the port of Bayham, the blue water rose slightly but firmly, and the freighters and liners rocked like leaves fluttering in midair. The rain continued to fall, and the sea level gradually approached the dike. The city was flooded with water in many places, and the environment was greatly suppressed. One by one, the frantical and numb locals in their Taraba shirts and tattered jackets came to the edge of the city or the dike before jumping into the sea. Their flesh and skin rapidly lost moisture as they fell, and they were already desiccated corpses by the time they fell into the sea. A group of people were rotting as they hugged the Navy sailor who was walking at a base. They angrily bit him to death with their teeth, reducing him to a mangled, bloody mess, and caused chaos on the streets. Whoosh, boom. The dike collapsed and the rising seawater poured into Bayham City. What in the World War Z is happening right now? When Klein jolted awake, his mind was filled with the scene from his dream. Oh, for a seer, this is a very clear revelation. Sea god Calvatua has failed to find a way to survive and has completely given up, resulting in it going completely mad. I wanted to create a storm, stir up a tsunami, and drown the roasted archipelago so that countless can join it in death. At the same time, its devotees are starting to do extreme acts. I've already informed the Church of Storms they're likely to be able to stop it. No, even if I didn't inform them, they'll definitely be able to sense a problem with the appearance of such a situation. They would then make the necessary response. Clyde rolled to his feet, wore his clothes, and walked out of the bedroom. He saw blazing donuts standing by the window looking out. He saw the clouds hanging low, his rain poured down as though he was endless. A sign had appeared. Klein walked over to Donuts, who was looking out at a repressive weather. He could faintly hear the abnormal sound of the tide. Yeah. What slurs am I saying now? Honestly, just add it to the list. In the leading color, clouds quickly split apart, and the falling rain lost its source in the direction of docks. Everything returned to normal. The morning sun shone down from the high up in the sky, bathing Bayham in holy light. Donitz hissed and said to himself, Jan Kottman changed the weather. Jan Kottman, the Church of Storms Cathedral and high-ranking deacon of the mandated punishers, he suppressed Calvatua's powers. Klein retracted his gaze while in thought. Donitz heaved a sigh of relief. It was rather worried now, afraid that the sea gods who's on the brink of a breakdown would create a disaster. But there's Jan Kottman. I'm starting to like this Jan Kottman guy. Seeing that Gammon Sparrow was silent, he continued, adding, At sea, even the king of the 5 seas and queen mystic wouldn't be his equal. Captain said he's a sequence 3 demigod. Ooh, the potion's name is, it's Sea King. I love when we get to meet, like, stupid, crazy, overpowered people. I'm excited to learn more. Yeah, just a new person for me to glaze. And not even me, just, like, the people in the book. Well, it's Jahn. So it's either John, Jan, or Jan, or Yan. One of them. I probably would. Yeah, like, I'd pronounce it Jan. You know? That's how I'd pronounce it. And then we'd go from there. Okay. Okay, other than that, I'm gonna leave it. We're gonna stop here. I'm gonna pick up tomorrow, and I'm gonna read another few chapters and get through it. I don't know what day the guy's coming to fix the internet, but it'd be awesome if he did it sooner rather than later. Because it's actually starting to get on my nerves a little bit. And that's all I got for today. Thanks so much for coming and bullying me for a couple hours and listening to me read. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night or day or whatever it is for you. And I will, yeah, thank you so much. It's always the highlight of my day when I get to come here and just get ripped apart. Other than that, bye-bye. I will see you guys next time.